Dad's 70th birthday was supposed to be a celebration. In my family, that meant someone was bound to get hurt. The Carter living room glowed in soft, golden light, the kind of light that made family portraits look warm and safe, even if they hid 1,000 fractures. The scent of Dad's favorite pipe tobacco drifted from the den, mingling with the sweet vanilla of the frosted cake on the dining table. I stood near the window, holding a glass of sparkling cider, the chatter behind me humming like a hive. From my corner, I could see the pencil marks on the kitchen doorframe, tiny notches from years of growth checks. Mine had stopped at 5'5" when I was 17. Ryan's marks had always been higher, just like everything else in his life. I remembered when we'd race bikes down Maple Street and Dad would cheer for both of us, though somehow Ryan always won. Even back then, I'd learned to celebrate quietly, to shrink my victories so his could take up more space. Now, Ryan was holding court in the center of the room. Lauren, his wife, stood by his side in a perfect navy dress, her smile all sugar until she spoke. When the edge cut through, my parents flanked him, Mom's hand resting proudly on his arm, Dad grinning like Ryan had already given him the world. Patricia and Howard, our cousins, stood with their daughter Chloe, watching with that polite interest people save for family events they can't escape. Ryan tapped his glass with the ease of someone who expected attention. "I've got a big surprise for Dad," he announced, his voice filling the room. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the old mantel clock seemed to pause. "I've been thinking," he continued, "it's time for Mom and Dad to have a place that's easier to manage, somewhere modern. No more drafty windows, no steep stairs. So," he paused, letting the anticipation swell, "I'm going to sell this house and move them into a new one with me." Applause broke out instantly, a chorus of "That's so thoughtful" and "Smart move, Ryan." Patricia clasped her hands, beaming. Lauren leaned closer to him, her smile angled just right for the room to see. I stayed silent, the glass cold in my palm. The house wasn't just wood and nails. It was Sunday dinners at the long oak table, Dad's pipe on the sideboard, the faint creak of the upstairs hallway at night. It was the last place I'd felt like I belonged before I learned I didn't. Ryan's eyes found mine. He smiled in that smooth, public way, the kind that looked generous from the outside. "And of course," he said, "it's time for you to move out, Emily." The room shifted. A couple of relatives tried to hide their surprise. Others looked away. Mom's lips pressed into a polite, expectant line. The air felt heavier, like someone had shut the windows and locked the heat inside. I set my glass carefully on the side table, fingers steady despite the rush of blood in my ears. "Then, I suppose I have a gift for you too." I didn't leave the table to sulk. I left to arm myself. The porch boards groaned under my step as I pushed open the front door, letting the cool October breeze wash over me. The air carried the faint tang of salt from the harbor, crisp enough to cut through the muffled clinking of glasses and laughter inside. My pulse thudded in my ears, faster than I liked, and I shoved my hands into my pockets to keep from balling them into fists. Through the thin curtain of lace at the window, I could see Ryan leaning toward Dad, his arm slung casually over the back of his chair, basking in the glow of his own announcement. Dad was smiling, actually smiling, like Ryan had just solved every problem we'd never had the courage to name. It reminded me of all those bike races down Maple Street, when Dad would cheer for both of us but clap just a little louder when Ryan crossed the line first. Back then, I let him win. Tonight would be different. I pulled my phone from my pocket and stared at Dad's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button. It would be so easy to walk back in there, demand an explanation, make him choose. But I already knew which side he'd pick, and I wasn't about to hand Ryan the satisfaction of watching me plead. Instead, I scrolled to the name I'd memorized months ago. Daniel Brooks answered on the second ring, his tone brisk and clipped. "Emily, what's wrong?" "Title check," I said, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. "And I need you to pull up the will." There was the faint tapping of keys on his end. "Is this about the Carter house?" "Yes. Ryan's trying to move Mom and Dad out. Claims he's selling it." "That's interesting. Daniel said, his voice shifting into that lawyer's cadence I'd come to trust. Because according to the county records, you've been the legal owner for 18 months. Bought it at foreclosure. Cash sale. A flicker of satisfaction warmed my chest. And the will? He didn't keep me waiting long. The will stipulates that the family member who preserved the home during a financial crisis inherits it outright. That would be you. The weight of those words settled in my bones. The very thing Ryan thought he could take from me was already mine. I need the ownership documents ready by tomorrow, I said, and send cease and desist notices to every real estate agent within 20 miles. If he tries to list it, I want the paperwork in their faces before he can shake a hand. There was a pause. Then Daniel's voice came through, low and certain. Emily, you hold every card. The question is, how do you want to play them? I let the silence stretch. Inside, a round of laughter burst from the dining room, Ryan's voice carrying above the rest. My hand tightened around the phone, but when I spoke, my tone was cool, precise, carefully, and publicly. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my pocket. The porch light flickered on as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the weathered boards. I turned toward the door, my eyes landing on the pencil marks etched into the frame. One for every year, every inch, every reminder of who I'd been in this house. Tonight, I whispered, tracing the highest mark with my fingertip, I take it all back, inch by inch. If Ryan wanted a stage, I'd let him perform. Right up until the curtain dropped. When I returned to the dining room, the air was looser, wine glasses filled a little higher, and plates were stacked neatly at one end. The cake was half eaten, Sinatra low in the background, perfect for a man who thrived when people stopped thinking critically. It kind of meant I slid into my seat with a faint smile. Walk us through it again? The plan sounded ambitious. Ryan's eyes lit up. Market's hot before winter. We list at $850, maybe more. I've got agents lined up, a quick staging, weekend showings, an offer deadline, under contract before year's end. Lauren leaned in, her tone honey-sweet. And the new place has a pool house for holidays, an in-law suite so your parents have privacy but are close. Picture next 4th of July, lights, music, grandkids. Patricia smiled politely, but then asked, and what happens to Emily? Ryan chuckled, dismissive. She'll be fine. A change will do her good. He glanced at me, as if granting a kindness. I tilted my head. Interesting. And the will, how does that fit? He smirked. I'm the eldest son. Obviously, I'll inherit everything here. A quiet shift moved through the table. Small glances, a cough into a napkin. I let the moment breathe, swirling my wine. Eldest son, I repeated softly. Very traditional. Ryan pressed on, emboldened. We'll net about $810 after fees. Roll that into a jumbo mortgage, lock the rate, and get mom and dad somewhere modern. No shoveling, no boiler repairs, just smart asset management. Smart, I echoed, my tone neutral. Though paperwork can be surprising, signatures matter. Don't worry about that, he said with a quick wave. Mom and dad are on the deed, always have been. Of course, I said, letting it go. For now. Lauren jumped in. Emily, this is about building a better future for everyone. For the family, I replied, holding her gaze. The words seemed to cool the air just enough that Patricia looked down at her plate. Howard sipped his wine more slowly. Dad still looked pleased, though I caught a flicker of hesitation in Mom's eyes. Ryan leaned back, the picture of confidence. Trust me, this is how you move forward. No emotion, just decisions. Sometimes, emotion protects what decisions overlook, I said lightly. He smiled like I'd made a clever joke. This isn't a courtroom. No, I said, not yet. That earned a few uneasy chuckles. Ryan straightened, sensing the lull, and raised his glass. To the future of the Carter estate. My phone buzzed on the table. Daniel's name glowed on the screen. his email arriving right on cue. If you think Ryan's confidence is about to cost him more than he bargained for, stick around. Hit subscribe so you won't miss the next twist. They thought I'd been cornered. They didn't see the exit was mine all along. Evening pressed against the windows, and the dining room lights threw a polished sheen across the table. Conversations stretched from one end to the other, comfortable and careless, until Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced down, his smile thinned. Lauren angled toward him, whispering, but his eyes stayed fixed on the screen. "There's something you all should know before this goes any further," I said, setting my fork down. Chairs creaked. Dad blinked. Mom's fingers tightened on her stemware. Ryan tried to reclaim the script. "Emily, we're in the middle of dinner. All the more reason," I replied. I tapped Daniel's number and placed the phone face up. The speaker crackled. His voice came steady and professional. "Emily, ready when you are. Please confirm the property records," I said, keeping my gaze on Ryan. "Per county records," Daniel said. "Emily Carter has been the sole legal owner of the Carter residence for the last 18 months, following a foreclosure purchase that cleared all liens and arrears." Gasps, a breath sucked in. Patricia's soft, "What?" Ryan shook his head. No, that's wrong." His laugh scratched the air. "There's more," Daniel continued. "Robert Carter's will specifies that the property is to be inherited by the family member who preserved it during financial crisis. Documentation on files supports that determination." Lauren's smile flickered. "I'm sure there's a misunderstanding," she said, sugar around steel. "It's not," I answered, "which means your plans for my house end tonight." Patricia turned toward Ryan. "So, you've been lying to us?" Howard withdrew his hand from Ryan's shoulder and folded his arms, eyes suddenly distant. Ryan spread his palms, salesman smooth. "We were discussing options, trying to help." Dad's chair scraped back. He stood, then crossed the length of the table with the slow certainty of a verdict. His hand settled on my shoulder. "She saved this family's home," he said, voice low but carrying, "while you planned to sell what wasn't yours." Silence pooled. Someone set a glass down too gently. The chandelier hummed. Lauren stared at the tablecloth, as if a better answer might be stitched there. Mom pressed her lips together, pride and shame wrestling behind her eyes. Ryan's face flushed high on the cheekbones. His jaw worked, then stalled. I slid Daniel's email across the table so the seal would catch the light. "Cease and desist letters have already gone out to local agents," I added. "No one lists this address without my signature." Patricia exhaled, rings clicking. Good Lord. Chloe stopped filming under the table and put her phone away. Howard cleared his throat. "Then that's that." Ryan tried one last pivot. "If you'd told me." "I did," I said, and let the lie fold under the weight of the truth we all preferred. He hadn't asked. From somewhere near the kitchen, Sinatra promised the best was yet to come. For once, the lyric matched the room. The room leaned into courtroom. The table felt built for declarations. The cousins went quiet. A draft lifted the runner. The chandelier hummed. The house listened, memorizing every word. Lauren tried for reasonable. "Robert, Margaret, no one wants a fight. We're thinking of your comfort." She reached for Mom's hand. Mom didn't offer it. Dad kept a palm on my shoulder, an anchor that said enough. Daniel added, final, "Any attempt to market or encumber the property without Miss Carter's written consent will trigger legal action." The speaker clicked off like a gavel. Howard eased back. Patricia shook her head. "All this time," she whispered, "and she was the one holding the roof up." Ryan searched for purchase, but the room gave none. I smoothed my napkin. "After dinner we can discuss what help actually looks like," I said. "It starts with listening." "Oh?" Ryan shoves back his chair. "If this is how you want it, you can consider me gone. Justice doesn't always arrive with a bang. It can come quietly, in the way a door lock clicks shut." The January air bit at my cheeks as I stepped onto the front porch. Frost crusted the railing, the pale winter sun spilling long shadows across the yard. A sedan idled at the curb, and Ryan emerged, alone. His shoulders sloped, his hands bare against the cold. He climbed the steps slowly. "Try to work around you," he said without preamble. "Agents wouldn't touch it. Daniel made sure of that." I nodded toward the door. "Come in." Inside, the living room glowed with winter light, warm coffee steam curling from the table. We sat opposite each other, the hum of the heater filling the space between us. I set a folder on the table and opened it. Deed copies, the will's clause highlighted in yellow. "These aren't just papers," I said. "They're the lines we live by. 3 conditions going forward. 1. No property decisions without all owners present. 2. Respect for whoever shoulders the work. 3. Full transparency on major family matters." Ryan's gaze stayed on the documents. "Fair," he murmured. Dad stepped in from the hallway, leaning on the frame. "Your sister's the pillar of this house," he said. "She kept us standing." Mom carried in a worn cardboard box, setting it down beside me. The scent of old paper rose as I lifted the lid. Photos layered in decades, some curling at the edges. We sifted through them, birthday cakes, fishing trips, pencil marks climbing the doorframe. Ryan held one of us as kids, bikes at our sides. "I remember that day," he said quietly. "You won," I replied. "I let you—" He didn't argue. Instead, he glanced toward the porch. "I can't repaint the rail. Fix the fence. If that's a start." "There's no time, Mego. I'm trying so hard, I'm not thinking. Like I said, deaf pool." I reached for my phone and tapped Daniel's contact. His voice filled the room. "Supplemental clause is on record now, signed by you, Robert, and Margaret. No further challenges possible without unanimous consent." I met Ryan's eyes. "I'm not kicking anyone out of this family. I'm kicking recklessness out of this house." He stood, a hint of relief softening his posture. Dad clapped him on the shoulder before handing him a paint can. When the door shut behind him, my phone buzzed. An email flagged urgent. An old debt of Mom's had been reopened by someone unnamed. I looked at the pencil marks on the door frame, felt the solid weight of the keys in my pocket, and smiled. If they want to try again, I still have the keys. I've told you my story, but it's more than just mine. It's for anyone who's been underestimated, dismissed, or pushed aside in their own family. If you believe in standing your ground without losing your grace, leave a comment and let me know what part of this fight spoke to you most. Share your own hard-earned victories so others can learn from them. And remember, documents, preparation, and a calm voice can turn the tide faster than shouting ever will. Subscribe if you want to follow the rest of this journey, because justice is in a moment. It's a habit you build.